Mr. President, Excellencies, Honourable Ministers, distinguished delegates, friends and colleagues in public health, ladies and gentlemen, let me thank the Government of Malta for hosting this 62nd session of the Regional Committee meeting for Europe. This is my first visit to your beautiful and gracious country. With its rich history, visible in so many palaces and piazzas, and of course, we, last night, experienced firsthand the history and culture which was so rich in the palace where the President, His Excellency, hosted the reception in honor of all the participants of this Regional Committee meeting. It was a wonderful reception. Minister Joseph, my friend, I didn't want to leave the reception, honestly. He was asking me to dance. And we have just started. Then I said to myself, no, Margaret, you better get back to work. Otherwise, you can't even stand up and deliver the address and say hello to all the friends and ministers here. We'll do it next time. As I said, this is a great country. You also have, in addition to the generosity and the graciousness, you have contributed much to the comfortable atmosphere of this meeting, as well as to the efficient organization. And I want to thank all the staff in this country that, helped the hard work in the last few years to make this a very successful meeting. Our comfort is further extended by Malta's prohibition of smoking in all enclosed public places. Last month, public health experienced a game-changing event in which the good guys win. Australia's High Court upheld legislation mandating plain packaging for tobacco products. Of course, this was aggressively challenged by the tobacco industry. The court ruling was a huge victory for the Australian government, but also for public health, opening a brave new world for tobacco control. In this case, concern about protecting the public's health took precedence over issues of intellectual property rights put forward by a rich and ruthless industry. We face ongoing battles, I want to emphasize that. Not only with the big tobacco, many countries in WHO were challenged by the industry for taking appropriate actions to protect its people. There are other powerful industries and with other powerful forces beyond our control. The financial crisis of 2008 continues to affect a large number of countries. European economies are going through some turbulent times, and you have heard from our colleagues from OECD yesterday. For some countries, prosperity has been replaced by austerity, making the delivery of health services less generous than in the past. I thank every country represented in this room for struggling to maintain your commitment to health at the domestic, regional, and international levels. To borrow a phrase, health is too big to fail. I can make such a statement with confidence, as this region has done so much to gather the evidence and make the arguments that health is wealth. You did this with the Tallinn Charter on Health Systems for Health and Wealth, most recently, and of course, with the Health 2020 policy framework and strategy. Health maintains its high profile in this region, but money is tight, and governments are careful with their spending. This puts a lot of pressure on ministers of health, as on WHO, to back up recommended strategies with solid evidence that they are effective and cost-effective. Given the complex challenges we face today, this evidence must resonate well with non-health sectors and speak to their mandates. I thank your regional director, my sister Susanna, her staff, and their partners for the tremendous amount of work that has gone into preparation of documents for this session. These include background documents that draw together a considerable amount of evidence on the social determinants of health, intersectoral governance for health, and the economic case for public health action. Not surprisingly, chronic non-communicable diseases are the principal focus of these documents. They offer practical, evidence-based advice on how to actually implement whole-of-government and whole-of-society approaches, making good use of regulatory and fiscal measures. We need this kind of how-to guidance if we want health concerns to penetrate the boundaries of other sectors. I see great value in drawing together economic evaluations of the impact of specific health interventions, including those that promote tobacco control and physical activity, reduce the harmful use of alcohol, improve road safety, address depression throughout the life cycle, and tackle the root causes of obesity and diet-related diseases. We need these arguments to persuade other sectors. There is, of course, nothing new, ladies and gentlemen, nothing new about intersectoral action for health. Back in 1978, when the Declaration of Alma Ata was signed, the need was for collaboration with friendly, almost sister sectors like education, nutrition, housing, and water supply and sanitation. Today, the struggle to safeguard public health increasingly places health concerns in competition with the interests of powerful multinational corporations. Any health policy, no matter how sound or far-sighted, that is perceived to threaten a fragile economy, risks being put aside in the drive for economic growth and a strong GNP. For example, the best way for populations to lose weight is for the food industry to sell less unhealthy food, especially food that is cheap, convenient, and tasty, but energy-rich and nutrient-poor. For obvious reasons, this will never happen all by itself. Industrialized, highly processed food is becoming the new dietary staple around the world in what some researchers call it, and let me quote, snack attack. Marketing budgets are big and audiences very well targeted. Links to the prevalence of obesity and related diseases are well documented. As with tobacco control, reversing this trend depends on support from policies in multiple non-health sectors. Many of the concepts addressed in your documents have their roots in this region. I find it entirely appropriate for Europe to continue its leadership role by giving these concepts a concrete body of evidence, supported by a diversified menu of policy options. Ladies and gentlemen, WHO and its member states face two big assignments where we absolutely must get things right. The first is WHO reform. The second is placing health on the post-2015 development agendas. I value your guidance as we collaborate on both tasks. This region has always been at the forefront in addressing emerging health threats that eventually confront the rest of the world. This region has traditionally provided the most generous financial support to international health development in general and to WHO in particular. I have already mentioned your leadership in promoting well-functioning and fair health systems. You help pioneer understanding of lifestyle-related factors that increase the risk of NCDs, culminating in last year's Moscow Declaration. As a tribute to the quality of life and healthcare in the region, the median population age in Europe is the highest in the world. Healthy aging is also on your agenda, with a strategy and action plan proposed as guidance for the coming years. The document on healthy aging emphasizes the need to approach aging with a far more positive attitude. I fully support this view. Statistics collected for this year's World Health Day indicate that within the next 5 years, and for the first time in history, the number of adults aged 65 and older will outnumber children under the age of 5. In other words, being in the older age group is becoming the new normal for the world population. I am very honored to be included in this group. A life course approach, as advocated in Health 2020, is one of the best ways to keep the health needs of older people normal for as long as possible. On WHO reform, which is, of course, on your agenda, financing of WHO was a big driver for the reform. I have asked Professor Thomas Seltner, who needs no introduction, who's an old friend and known to many of you, to be my special envoy, to advise me in the preparation of the document for the special PBAC meeting in December this year. He will, of course, meet and consult countries, ambassadors, partners, and get your inputs. The document presented to you in the special PBAC will be my document, and of course, with proposals, as you have asked me to do so, to increase the transparency, predictability, and flexibility of WHO's financing. But I want to ground my thinking, my proposals in your reality, as reflected through Professor Thomas Seltner's consultation and dialogue with you. It is no use for a DG of WHO to present to you proposals that are not pragmatic, not implementable, and least not acceptable to the shareholders of this organization. So, Thomas, thank you for doing pro bono work for us. And this is also part of healthy aging. I'm not saying you're old. You have retired, but you continue to work, and that's the spirit. Thank you. Your documents on WHO reform have mentioned that some reform initiatives, such as those linked to governance, can be implemented very quickly, while others are developmental in nature and will require several years to become fully effective. From the outset, the WHO reform process has been in the hands of the member states. You have before you drafts of the 12th General Program of Work and the next program budget. These documents let you see how priority setting works in practice for the first time in 65 years history of WHO. Member states have asked me to present these documents to the regional committee meeting for your review and discussion. And we will, subject to the 6 regional committee meetings and consultation, revise the document and send it to the PBAC and the Executive Board in January in 2013. So please bear in mind that both documents are works in progress. I shall not dwell on these documents at this stage, as we have separate agendas to go into greater details. Ladies and gentlemen, the target date for reaching MDGs is fast approaching. The debate about the post-2015 development agenda is in full swing. Rest assured, WHO is taking a leadership role in moving this debate through processes and procedures aimed at collecting a broad range of views. There are many political as well as technical processes ongoing, And WHO, with some member states in this organization, is taking a very active role, and of course, working with our UN agency partners. Pursuit of the MDGs taught us many lessons. We learned the critical importance of a well-functioning and inclusive health system that offers financial protection against catastrophic health expenditures. We learned that good aid builds self-reliance. It aims to eliminate the need for aid. It does so by channeling resources in ways that strengthen existing capacities and infrastructures instead of circumventing or undermining them. We learned the value of concentrating international efforts on health on a limited number of time-bound goals that resonate very well with the general public and resonate very well with parliamentarians, and of course, with the development community. Individual diseases benefited greatly from innovation, including new financing mechanisms and technical innovation, like new vaccines, better medicines, patient-friendly formulations, and simplified point-of-care diagnostic tests. These are some of the successes that help drive dramatic reduction in morbidity and mortality. They have paved the way for a new agenda that builds on these achievements. And I'm happy to see our colleagues from Gavi, from Global Fund here. These are important partners. But as I said, we absolutely must get this right going forward. The MDGs strongly influence development priorities and direct resource flows. The temptation will be very great to expand the number of goals rather than keep the agenda sharp, focused, and feasible. Let me remind you, there are many sectors like energy, employment, water, ocean, the list is long, trying to get a goal. So this is actually going against the notion of having an agenda which is sharp, focused, time-bound, and limited number of goals. So the competition is keen among sectors to make sure they have one goal. We'll be lucky if we get one health goal. It is in your hands. As governments, you are at the negotiation table to make sure that health is appropriately and properly placed in the future development agenda. As we think about the post-2015 agenda, we must never forget that the health-related MDGs were largely an infectious disease agenda. At the start of this century, AIDS, TB, malaria were public health emergencies that warranted sharply focused efforts to stop the epidemics from expanding further and reduce the number of deaths. This happened. Efforts to control these diseases can now address them, not as emergencies, but as part of general health services. In turn, general health services can benefit broadly from the refined and simplified strategies developed to control these diseases. As just one example, the recent WHO policy requiring diagnostic confirmation of malaria before medicines are dispensed has strengthened detective capacity for all diseases. My advice is this: we dare not reduce the current pressure on vaccine-preventable diseases, AIDS, TB, malaria, and the neglected tropical diseases. Constant mutation and adaptation are the survival mechanisms of the microbial world. Complacency gives infectious diseases the perfect opportunity to return with a vengeance. I need only mention the problem we are already facing with antimicrobial resistance. The momentum to control these diseases must not stop in 2015. The MDGs also taught us that health deserves a high place on any development agenda. Health is a precondition of development. It is a powerful driver of social and economic progress. Because its determinants are so broad, health is a sensitive indicator of the impact that policies in all sectors of government have on the well-being of citizens. As just one example, if trade policies, tariffs, and agricultural subsidies cause food prices to soar, the adverse effects will be most visible in the health sector, presented either as hunger, as we see it in Sahel now, or malnutrition. Changes in health status will also be the most readily and reliably measured signal that policies need to be adjusted. As I said, health is too big to fail. If health fails, all else fails. We can be pleased that the final outcome document of the Rio+20 summit gave health a central place as a precondition for development and an indicator of development. That document also stressed the importance of universal health coverage in enhancing health, social cohesion, and sustainable human and economic development. However, more work needs to be done to give health its proper place in the next development agenda. The MDGs were a compact between developing countries and their needs and wealthy countries that promised to address these needs through the commitment of funds, expertise, and innovation. In short, a compact between the haves and the have-nots, aimed at reducing gaps in living conditions, relieving poverty, and relieving a vast human misery. When we consider the nature of today's threats to health, ladies and gentlemen, a simple compact between the haves and the have-nots fails to capture the complexity of these trends and these threats. Many of these threats arise from the realities of a world characterized by radically increased interdependence and interconnectedness. In the very recent past, public health has moved into a unique political space. More and more, the conditions that threaten health are shaped by forces that govern the entire world. What do I mean by that? Today, the international systems have more power than a sovereign government to influence the lives and opportunities of citizens, including the chances they have to enjoy a healthy life expectancy. Again, think about obesity, especially childhood obesity, and the clever marketing of unhealthy foods and beverages to children, beamed by satellite TV. You may be banning unethical marketing of unhealthy food to children in your country, but the interconnectedness with your neighbors, who may not be banning the unethical advertising, your people will receive those bad messages too. Our world is in bad shape, in bad trouble. Multiple troubles have multiple consequences for health. I'm talking about a changing climate, more emergencies and disasters, more hot zones of conflict, soaring healthcare costs, soaring food prices, demographic aging, migration, rapid unplanned urbanization, and the globalization of unhealthy lifestyles. I'm talking about an enduring economic downturn, financial insecurity, shrinking opportunities, especially for youth and the middle classes, poverty that keeps getting deeper, and social inequalities that keep growing wider. These are universal trends, and many of them are driving the relentless rise of NCDs. As I have said before, health is on the receiving end of policies made in other sectors. I have no illusions, likewise, you also understand the daunting challenges for you as ministers of health. Within governments and internationally, the health sector will never have as much power or as many resources as sectors like finance, trade, or defense. This likely reflects the tendency of political leaders to define a very narrow national progress agenda as measured by economic growth and a rising GNP. Still, I believe we can outsmart some of these trends, or at least counterbalance them with clever policies and convincing arguments, guided by the abundant evidence and practical examples set out in your documents. Money, of course, is important, but it does not make all the difference in the world. For health, policies that make equity, let me emphasize, policies that make equity an explicit objective do much more to improve health outcomes and promote social cohesion than money alone. In my view, one of the best ways to respond to all these challenges is to make universal health coverage part of the post-2015 development agenda. In my view, universal coverage is the single most powerful social stabilizer, equalizers. In many of your countries, you are already doing so well. And I don't mind to tell you, more than 60 middle and low-income countries is requesting technical advice and support from WHO, and we work in tandem with the World Bank to advise these countries to implement universal health coverage. You don't have to be rich to provide universal health coverage to your people. As I said, that is the smartest thing that we can do. At a time when policies in so many sectors are actually increasing social inequalities, I would be delighted to work with you to see that health lead the world towards greater fairness in ways that matter to each and every person on this planet. Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention.